Welcome GRD131, Graphic Design 1. We're going to continue working with our logos for the roofing company, and this should technically be exercise 11. 10 should be the logo where you added some visuals to your original designs, which was exercise 9. So 10 should have been putting together, like I did here. I put together a little house and some color. I tried some ideas, and I think this is my favorite here out of these. And again, they're not perfect. They don't have to be perfect, but they're simple, they're clean. They're certainly an improvement over the original. And that's what we're going to do here for ex11. We're going to put together a banner ad or a web ad. And what I did first was just do a little research, and I just looked up display ads because I was just looking for sizes, and it talked about different sizes here. We're going to start with this one, the large rectangle, because it says top performing ad sizes according to Google, and this one's 336 by 280. We're going to start with that, and then we'll make a modified version. We'll do a wide version, so you have the experience of working on a more of a vertical version and a horizontal version. And not only does it have things like create multiple formats, which we're going to do, it has some advice for us. Add your logo. Now, that's nice to know that we're going to do that first. So we're going to add our logo first. That's the most important thing. And they have some examples here. And we're going to use some photographic imagery. It says a crystal clear value propositions. That means keep your message clear. Your message should be clear. You're not going to put a whole bunch of different things there. You're not going to talk about all the things you do. You're going to talk about one thing and really get your message across. So we scroll down here through all the ads other ads that you see. Enticing call to action. So again, make sure that people want to click there. Maybe it could be a discount or something like that. I didn't even think about that yet, but that may be nice to do so somebody clicks on it to find out more information. But our ad is going to be set up so you want to find out more information. Keep your design simple. I think we've talked about that all semester. Keeping our logo simple, and we want to keep our design simple. You want to keep things clean and readable. Frame the image. We're going to have a photograph in the background, so we won't have to worry about putting a border or frame on it. Unless you have a white area that you might want to just bracket it in, you could certainly put a border around it, so that's certainly helpful to separate it from the rest of the page. But we're going to do something where we have a photo background, so that should create the frame. And choose your fonts carefully. We've been talking about fonts for a long time this semester, about not using too many distinctive fonts for the headers, and then very clean fonts, and keep the text to a minimum. Again, we're going to keep it real clean, real simple. That's what we want to do here because people have a short attention span and you only have a second or two to really grab someone's attention. So we want to be very simple and clean. So all these suggestions here, strong imagery, we're going to use an image that'll kind of grab people. Now it is roofing, so I don't know how exciting it'll be. And make sure your landing page and your design match your brand guidelines. So make sure it matches your logo. Make sure it looks like what you're doing. So everything here kind of makes sense. I think I don't know about urgency. It's getting into a lot of things here, but I think for what we're going to do, this should help. So we're going to start off, if we scroll back to this at the beginning, we're going to use the large rectangle. Now, a couple things we're going to do. We're going to work with an image in Photopea, which is a Photoshop alternative, which is free. And we're working in Gravit, which is free. So we're doing an entire layout, which is free. I think that's pretty cool just right off the bat. Now, if we go to Photopea, now I have something started here. Let me just close this off and I'll just show you what I did. If you go to Photopea, which is nice because you don't have to log in, you don't have to create an account. All you have to do with Photopea is just go to File and then go New, and they even have templates here. If you go down here where it has social, print, it has all kinds of different things down here. If you go to Ads, they have, I think, the large rectangle, which is the one they were talking about. So we're going to use this, the large rectangle, 336 by 280, and just click on that. And that'll give us kind of a format to work in. So when we work with photos, we don't have to crop them in Gravit in our layout program. We're just going to crop them here. We can fix them. We can touch them up. We can lighten them, whatever we have to do. So I'm going to choose that and then give it a name here. So even though we're probably not going to keep this, but I'll just call it Alt Ad. I'll just highlight this and put Alt Ad, and that's pretty much what I need right now. Keep it at 72, 336 by 280, and then if you just hit create, you're ready to go. And you could zoom in a little bit. I'm going to use Command plus. If you're on a Windows, use Control plus to zoom in a little bit. And we're going to drag some images in here. And we're going to look for images first. Now also, what we're going to do, is you're going to find your logo. Now, hopefully in EX9, you went back and you watched the videos that I had for feedback and you revised your EX9 logo. And then for EX10, even though I didn't have a specific assignment for that, hopefully you kind of worked on your one logo and brought some imagery into it. Some people were working with houses, things like this. So this is the version I did in the last video. So I'm going to stick with this. Now, I'm not going to work in this file. I'm going to make a new file. Now, in Gravit, you can keep multiple files open. So you can go here and go File New, and I'm going to go to New Design. Now, they might have templates here for ads, but I'm just going to put it in up here for pixels. And I'm just going to put in 336, and if you're not sure, just go back to this thing, 336 by 280. So I'm going to go back to 336 by 280, just put that in here, and it's always width first, so it's going to be a little bit wider, and I'll hit Create. And what you can do right away, since it's called Untitled, is save to your cloud and go in your 331 folder. Go down here and call it ex11 and then just call it alt-add. It'll just look better with the dash in there, and then put -336. That could be the width of the ad. And then if you want to put dash and put your last name first initial, I'll put mine in here, so that's all you need to do. And then just hit save, and it's all ready to go. Now, what we're going to need from here, before we do anything, we're going to work with some pictures and things like that. A couple things you want to do here on this new file is click on the outside here and make sure you turn off clip content. That way, when you put something here, you could see it on your desktop. So I'm going to put something here. And what I'm going to put here is I'm going to go and get my logo that I want, and I'm going to use this one. And I'll just highlight these. Now, it's not grouped right now, but I'm going to group it once I paste it so that it moves as one. So I'm going to copy this. I'll do Command-C on a Mac. You would do Control-C on Windows. And then you can go back to this file, and you could just paste it. Now, you can see it's 4 layers right now, and it's on the paste board, on the desktop area, the paste board here. And if you want to group it right away, just hit the Group button. And then instead of calling it group, you could just double click here and call it alt logo. At least you'll recognize it easier in your layers. And then it'll be grouped and it'll be easier to move around and scale and do things like that. Now, if you need to change colors in here, which we probably will, you're going to have to just click on one element at a time to do that. But that's okay. So there's our logo in there, and that's all ready to go. And they said the first thing, get your logo in there. Well, I don't want to put that in yet because I want to get an image in here. Now, then I'm back to Photopea because I want to work with an image. I want to kind of get my image ready before I put it in Gravit. So we're kind of doing some workflow here, and this would be typical workflow you would do with Photoshop and Illustrator. We're just doing it with Photopea and with Gravit. So the next thing you're going to do is you can open another tab here, and if you don't need this open anymore, you can close this 14 design practices. You could close this up. I'll give you a link to this. And I'm going to search now. Just do a Google search, and I'm just going to search for roofing. And I'm just going to search for images. I'm not looking for a roofer. I'm just looking for some roofing pictures. And you want to look for something actually like this, although that's kind of metal roofing. I don't know if they do that. You want to make sure it's something that they do, but something with a lot of nice angles in here would be nice. Not necessarily a guy working on a slate roof, not necessarily the wood or the plywood, as they're framing things, stuff like that. I don't know about using tools. I'm looking for kind of nice images like this. Now remember, it's more of a square image, so I'm just going to look for a couple down here. Now I already messed around with this before, so I know there's some that I like as I go down here, and there's a lot. And again, I wouldn't use that because it's metal. But there's a couple that I like. That's a little too detailed. You got to remember who their audience is. I don't know if they're doing all $1 million houses all the time, and you don't want to scare off anybody. This is one that I like here because there's a lot of neat little angles going on here, and it's very plain. So if you're putting a message over top of it, it'll be easier to do that. So I'm going to click on this, and it's kind of in the format that I like, the kind of proportion. And I'm just going to right-click and do copy image. And copy this, and I'm not going into Gravit. So you got to follow this here. I'm going into Photopea. We're going to work with our photos first. And I'll go on my arrow in Photopea, the move tool, and I'll just paste. And you should be able to do Control-V. If you have any problem, there's an edit paste. And I'm going to zoom out. I'll do Command-. And just a couple things to be aware of when you're in Photopea. When you paste this, it pastes as a layer. Now you could call this layer, whatever, Roof 1 or something that makes it more identifiable, or you don't have to. But when you have this bounding box here, keep in mind that if transform controls is checked, you're going to see it. If you don't see it checked, it could be hard to scale it. So then you don't have to use a scale tool if you have transform controls on. Remember, I'm on my arrow here, my move tool. I have transform controls checked. That way I'm always going to see this bounding box here. The only thing I don't like compared to Photoshop is they kind of make this a little more prominent. It looks like it's active. It's harder to tell if it's active. Whereas in Photoshop, it kind of is softened a little bit, so it's not really active. But anyway, when you grab on here, you do have to hold shift. You want to keep it in proportion. In Gravit, you don't have to do that. It'll stay in proportion when you grab it on the corner. But in Photopea, you have to hold shift. So hold your shift key when you do this. Don't be squashing and doing all that. Make sure you hold shift when you do it. And I'm going to bring it in here, and then I could zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to do Command plus and zoom in so I see it a little bit better. And you could still kind of move it around a little bit. I guess you could squash it, but you want it right to the edge, and you could have a little overflow. That's what's nice about this, is the frame that you're working in here, the background is actually cropping it for you. So you don't have to crop the image, you're just kind of moving it around, and that looks pretty good. I mean, you could make it bigger and have more roof if you want, but I just want a little hint of a window and some shadow down there, and I think that looks okay. You know, I don't know if I need more of that or more of that, but you can always move it around. That's the nice thing. You could change it. So I'll kind of find a little difference in there. Then typically you want to hit enter when you're done. If you've scaled it, you want to hit enter. And that's what I mean. It doesn't change the way it looks here, even though the little checkbox went away here. And you could turn this off if you don't want to see that border there. You could turn it off. Just remember you have to turn it on again. So there's layer 1, and there's our image here. And while I'm looking, maybe I'll just look for some more. That's one. I know I found a couple others that I liked. This is different here, but you have to think about, where would I put my logo? Where would I put my message? You know, the way it's looking there. This one isn't bad. That's a nice one there. This one isn't bad. That's kind of a neat. Let's try this. I'm going to click on this and just throw that in there. It doesn't mean I have to use it, but I'm just going to check it out. I'll throw that in there. You can put as many as you want in here, and I'll paste it. Now it's coming in real big. Now if you want to see the bounding box, click on Transform Handles and then zoom out so you can get to where the corner is. That just means it's higher resolution. Then hold Shift when you grab on the corner and bring it in here, and then zoom in so you can kind of see it a little better, not too much. And then you can kind of move it around a little bit, something like that. And this isn't too bad because the background's blurred out a little bit. I guess that's not too bad. I'll see how that works. And I'll just leave it there as an option. And I'll see if I can just find one more. I'll try to find 3. I think this is one I used before. And I think I like this because there's angles going on. And maybe I'll try this. And I'll right click on it and copy image again. And I'll put it in Photopea. Now again, I could turn this off here, and I'll just paste it, and this will be my 3rd layer. Now I'll put it back on, and I'm on my 3rd layer there, and I'll zoom out so I can see the full bounding box, grab the corner, hold Shift, bring it in here, and move it around. I like this because I like the sky up top. That's what I like about this one, so I'll make it a little bigger. Maybe I'll keep a little bit of that in there, but I want the sky up there. I like there's kind of a lighter area up top, and I'll zoom in just to make sure it's to the edge, and that's pretty good. I like that. I'll hit enter. They do have a little checkbox here you could hit, and now I have layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. And you could use the eyeballs here, the visibility icons in here to kind of look. There's number 2, there's number 1. And some of these, if you want to adjust them at all, you may want to lighten them up or do something. You know, particularly this one is a little higher contrast, so you may want to go on this one. Now make sure you go on that particular layer for layer 1 and you turn off the other ones and you're looking at it. And if I want to lighten it up, I might just go to Image Adjustments. And I always like to go to Shadows Highlights first, and just to kind of turn down the contrast a little. And this is a good way to get those really harsh edges down. If you just kind of put it on, put preview on and off, put it on, you can see it's just lightening up some of that stuff. And that's about it. It's at 12 right now. You could make it a little bit more. It's not going to do a whole lot right here, but just a little bit. I like to always do that first. And then I like to go to Image Adjustments, Levels. And what this is you have your darks, your midtones, and your highlight. Just this thing up here. You don't have to worry about this down here. Although this can be output if you need to lighten things up overall. You can kind of do that. That's a nice way to just kind of take down this takes down the contrast down here. When you move these in, this takes down the light and makes it kind of darker, less contrast. This moves it this way and makes it kind of lighter, less contrast. These things increase contrast. You're darkening the darks, you're lightening the lights. You can get it really high contrast Well, we don't want to do that. We don't want to make it high contrast. Actually, what I might do is just lighten up the midtones just a little bit, just slightly from where they start. And you can kind of click before and after, just slightly. And if you wanted to lighten up all the shadows, you can't lighten the shadows. You can only darken them. Here, all you can do is just lighten the highlights, which you don't need to because they're already almost white. But here, if you wanted to lighten the shadows a little, you could lighten them even a little bit more. And that looks fine. And I'll hit OK. Remember, this is going to sit in the background. So I'll hit OK, and let me just check my other one. That looks fine. I might want to almost take the darks down a little bit there too. So if I go on layer 2, I may go to image adjustments, and I'll go to shadows highlights, see if that has any effect. I'll just put that on or off. And that takes away the shadow a little. That's okay, just whatever the default is. And I might do the same thing. I might go to image adjustments, levels then, and I don't want to tweak the sky because it's just going to make the sky very white if I move this over. I have to have preview on. So if I move this over, the sky will get very white, and I guess I could do a little bit, and I might want to take midtones a little bit just to lighten it overall, and I think that's okay. And this is very blue, which will work nice with our logo, or at least the logo I have. I put a warm color in it. And then finally I have this one, and I don't know if I do a whole lot with that. I might lighten it up again. I might go to image adjustments, and I don't even know if I have to do shadows highlights because there aren't many shadows there. I'm going to go right to levels and maybe just lighten the midtones a little, just to lighten up the shingles a little since they're kind of a dominant feature in the background. And I'll hit OK. So just doing subtle stuff there. You know, we don't have to crop it because we're using our frame here to crop it. We're using what's called our canvas size, and that's the same thing in Photoshop. So this is our canvas size that we're using in here. So that way we can move layers around. These are layers that are moving around here that we can adjust them. So this is called alt.add.psd. Now this isn't saved right now, and it's not a big deal if it is, but if you wanted to, you could download it. You could basically just go to save as PSD and it would download it. You could do that just to save it if you needed to. And if you just went here, it's just going to download it. And it'll put it in your downloads. And that way it's at least saved up to this point if you didn't want to start over again or if something happened. But we're not going to do a whole lot that you're going to really need this. We're not going to export images out of here. We're going to actually just copy and paste things, which isn't always the way you do it. You might actually export images and then place them into a layout program, but we're just going to take our picture, since we're just doing pixels here and they're not very high resolution, we're just going to put them into our ad. Now we're going to start working in here. Now I'm just going to keep this off the page right now, and we're going to put our pictures in here. And how do I do that from Photopea? Well, we can just copy and paste, but what you have to do first is you have to take your marquee. Notice I'm using the rectangular marquee here, and I'm just highlighting the whole thing, and it's a little dotted line thing. It's hard to see. It's more evident in Photoshop, but not here. And if you wanted to copy what you're looking at, don't just do edit copy. They have something called copy merged. Copy merged means it sees whatever is kind of flattened. If you copy, it may copy the layer you're on. And I don't know if I'm on any layer here selected. I'm seeing the top layer, but you actually want to do copy merged. So go through the menu and do copy merged. Don't try to memorize whatever that is. Just copy merged and then go back to your alt add here. I messed up last time. Actually, what you have to do here, and I hope this is the same on Windows, when I went to edit paste, it didn't work this way, and I think we had this issue before. You need to use the shortcut. You need to use Command V on a Mac or Control V on Windows. So if I do Command V, it should paste there that exact size. I was having a problem earlier, and I was trying to use edit paste over here, but just use that one. Just use your shortcut, Control V, V for Victor, or Command V, and it'll paste in there the exact size because we have the 336 by 280. And there's our image, and you could just call it image 1, you know, if you want to just label these so you know the difference here, image 1. And then I'll just go back here and I'll bring them all in because then we'll be done in Photoshop. We don't have to do anything else in Photoshop, I don't think. And then if you just want to turn that layer off and try this one, you can do the same thing. Now I think there's still a marquee around here, so you just have to go to Edit Copy Merged and go back here, and we'll just Command V or Control V, and it'll paste it on top, and I'll call that image tip roof, at least, you know, just something so I know what it is. Image tip roof, if I can read that. The other one is, I don't know, gray roof. I'll call that gray roof just to help me identify them better. And then for my last one, I'll go back to Photopea, And I'll turn that off, and I'll call this blue-green when I do it because it looks kind of bluish. But you can see the marquee still there. So I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Merged again because I actually have layer 3 selected, but I'm seeing this. So merged means if you flattened it, that's what you're copying. So I'm copying these pixels that are flattened, and I'm going back here, and I'm going to use my shortcut on my keyboard, Control-V or Command-V, and paste. So now I have my 3 images, and I'll call this roof blue-green. And now I'm using dashes. I should have used them earlier. So now I have my 3 images in here, and you can lock them, you could hide them, whatever you want to do. So if you really like this one, you could kind of put this here, or you can move this to the top. I think you can drag this above so we have that gray roof if that's the one you want to start with. And I'll keep these as kind of extras back here, and I'll kind of work with that first. And I have those turned off. You could even lock the other ones, whatever you want to do. And now what I'm going to do, they mentioned bringing your logo in. And I'm going to bring my logo in, and I'm going to bring it in here. It's going to be really prominent. Now, it's behind my image right now, so make sure you drag your image above, or drag your logo above your image. So let me bring that to the top, and there's my logo. Now, it doesn't stand out as much because I have kind of muted colors. I have brown colors. I like that light brown, but I may need to change these. So what you may need to do, because you're working over top of a photograph, you may need to change your logo. That's the importance of keeping a logo flexible. So I'm going to click on here, and if it's grouped, you just have to click a second time on that, and I'm just going to make that white, and I'll just use white over here, and that really pops nice on that gray background. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll go to Appearance, and I'll do that. And then same thing down here, because it's very gray. Now, this would change depending on what kind of image you have in the back, but since everything's very gray here, I'm just going to click on that Roofing and Exteriors, and I'll make that white too. I'll make everything white except for the house icon that I went with. And now it's still grouped, and I think what I'm going to do next is put something dark down here, because I want to put possibly the phone number, maybe just the website. Maybe I don't need the phone number down there. I don't know if people call phone numbers from ads. I really don't. I know people can click on here and they can check the website. I think they might do that more. Now remember, this is a good size right now. You could probably go a little bigger, but I like to maintain at least 1/8 of an inch kind of going around here. Now we're not working in inches, so we'd have to kind of convert that to pixels. It's probably somewhere around 12 to 16 pixels going around. But that looks pretty good right now. You want some margin going around there. And I want to put the website at the bottom. And you could go back to your other ad and get your website information from that if you want. And I think that's what I'll do. I'll just go and get that information. And I'll also look at that information as well to see what I might want to put on my ad, because I want to keep this as simple as possible. So you got one shot here. We can't put all that, winter is coming, blah, 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 roof inspections, all this. What do you really want to get across? They do roofing, and maybe they have 44 years experience. Maybe that's a big thing here. Hey, we've been doing roofing in New Jersey for 44 years. Call them. They know how to do it. That may be a good way to approach this, no nonsense approach. So I think what I'm going to do here is take a break. And since I already have 3 photos in here, technically I don't need this anymore. I could save this if I want, or I could just close this up. It didn't take long to do it. I just used this as kind of a temporary holding place. If you wanted to do save as PSD, it'll just download it again, and it'll put a 1 after it or something like that, indicating it's different, and then that's your newest one, and then you have it in case you ever need it. And if you ever need it, you can go File Open and just go find it in your download. So if you closed it and for whatever reason you were like, oh, I need that again, you could just go here and go File Open and just go to your downloads, whether you're on Windows or Mac, and that's my newest one, and open it up, and then you can open up your PSD file. And if you have to copy anything, if you want to change anything, you can always do that. But we're pretty much done in Photopea right now. There's nothing else I have to do, but I wanted to make sure that we went in there and did any image editing in Photopea instead of trying to go in here and make changes and crop things and do all that. It was easier to just bring in our images all kind of ready to go in here. So I'm going to close up Photopea. I don't need to use that anymore. And I don't think I need these things anymore. I could close that up. I'm just going to work in Gravit here, and in part 2, we're going to just get our website information, get a headline in there, and be done with it, and just get a nice strong image that'll grab people's attention.